Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another third-party unlicensed 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review. Today, we're taking a look at the Toy Battalion Red, Black and Blue Rangers based off their appearance in the 95 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. Now, I got mine at a discount from KG Hobby. I've popped a link to their site in the description for your reference purposes only. As always, this is not a promotional video, this is a review. All opinions are 100% my own. If you're heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as brand new Power Rangers content goes live on the channel. So essentially, we're just looking at all the boys in this review. The girls, at the time of filming this video, haven't been released yet. When Pink and Yellow do get released, we'll do a combined review for them as well. As for the box art, I thought this would be easiest, seeing all three boxes side by side. We've got silhouetted images of each ranger on the front of their respective boxes, as well as their third-party names up top, ranging from Black Mammoth to Red T-Rex and, for Billy, Blue Torosaurus. I'm trying to imagine the conversation that went down when they were deciding how to do the names on the sides of the boxes, because there's no consistency at all. For Blue and Black, we've got a mix of caps and no caps, but for Red Ranger, his name is in all caps for some reason. Around the back, we've got Morphers and Ranger-specific power coins, so Mastodon for Black Ranger, T-Rex for Red, and Triceratops for Blue. I love how they've used the power coins as like a frame of sorts for the warnings and legal information. It's just nestled within the center of the morphers. I mentioned this in the Toy Battalion White Ranger and White Ninjetti reviews, but if you didn't catch them, the reason why third-party companies are having to make these movie figures is because the movie exists in this weird licensing black hole where Saban didn't own the rights fully, Disney was involved, Fox was involved. It's a very strange situation, so I highly doubt we're ever going to get official versions of these Rangers in 1/6 scale. Hasbro didn't even make these outfits in the Lightning collection. First in-hand impressions for movie Black, loving the glossy finish. We'll look at Red Ranger last because I reckon that one's going to be my favorite. Blue's outfit is poppin'. The vibrancy on display here is crazy. The one thing that I was hoping they'd add last minute to these figures, movie-specific accessories. Like Red Ranger, he had the visor in the film. Unfortunately, they didn't add that in the box. Maybe if we get a Ninjetti version of him, then they can chuck in a separate visor helmet head sculpt. As for Red Ranger, absolutely love the way he looks. What we're going to do now is get all of their accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything they come with. Starting off with their display bases first. All three of the boys have the exact same base mold, and the artwork is very similar too. It's just that we've got bespoke power coins in the middle of each morpher. They're printed on this textured surface, and around the front, no nameplate, which I absolutely prefer over printing something random like Red T-Rex on the front of the base, for example. Up top, we've got an adjustable crotch grabber with rubber tips on the front of it, so fingers crossed this isn't going to do any damage to their outfits if the crotch grabbers are making contact with their suits. Both versions of Movie White also came with this style of base mold, and the girls should come with this base too, so everything is going to match. We'll just go back and forth between them for their accessories. For Black Ranger, we get his Power Blaster, not Blade Blaster. I actually had to look that up. These were never used in the movie, but they did have them hanging on their belt inside their holsters. You have to attach the holsters out of the box. They come packaged separately. And we've got a Velcro closure on the front so you can install the power blasters inside of them, but they slide in and out as well. You don't necessarily have to use the Velcro if you don't want to. The details are surprisingly sharp on these for static little pieces that don't do anything, really. They don't turn into blades or blasters. Which is fine by me. Like I said, they don't use these in the movie. The black detail on the inside of the grip is present, the silver linework is crisp, including the little ones around the tip of the barrel, black paint on that barrel, but they are missing the black stripe on the front edge that's meant to be painted black. Pretty easy fix. They've sculpted the panel so it sits proud of the surface. They just forgot to paint it black, and they did that for all three of the Rangers. Well, not black, because his power blaster is black anyway. I'm going to have to touch up these two. I said in the unboxing segment that they don't come with movie-specific accessories. I forgot about the little Stega Stinger. I had to look up the name of it, but yes, it's called the Stega Stinger. Nothing to do with a Triceratops, strangely. That's the name they decided to give it. It's basically just a grappling gun of sorts. He uses it to launch himself across the construction site in the movie. A lot of details are missing paint-wise, but I am still glad they decided to include it. I just wish we got that visor for Red Ranger's helmet. And lastly, the same array of hands for all three Rangers. They're nice and soft and pliable, so getting the power blaster for all three of them into their hands shouldn't be a massive challenge. So those were the gripping hands, painted in metallic pearlescent white with a brown wash in the sculpt work. There's also leather grain texture on the surface. These are some style pose or martial arts pose hands. Open palm hands, and you can just see that shiny metallic finish to them. They look great. And two closed fists already installed on all three of them right out of the box. What we're going to do now is get the black, blue, and red Rangers themselves out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. Right off the bat, Toy Battalion, thank you so much for doing this. It seems no other companies had the guts to try it because these designs are so inherently complex that translating the ribbing and the armor plating and the shiny look of these outfits to 1/6 scale had to have been a massive challenge. These figures aren't flawless, there's no denying it, they have their issues. Visually speaking, they hit the mark for me. This is everything I wanted out of 1/6 scale Mighty Morphin movie Power Ranger figures, and more. Proportions-wise, they fill out the outfits, they don't look too small or too big in them. Everything fits in scale, including the funky-looking helmets. They're funky by design. You'll see what I mean in just a moment when we take them off the rotating turntable. But it's the sheen of the armor plating and the fabric bits that gets me the most. That was probably the most difficult part about capturing the look of these outfits in this scale. Yes, if we get ninjetti versions of all of these characters, they can give us unhelmeted head sculpts and more scene-specific accessories. As it stands for the price point and how quick these things came out, Toy Battalion did a more phenomenal job with these releases. I'm so sorry, I had to chuck that in there somewhere. So we're going to start off with Red Ranger first, then we'll move on to the other two. Up close and personal, kicking things off with Rocky's helmet. It's so ugly. But that's why I love it. I distinctly remember as a kid watching this movie for the first time and thinking to myself, hang on a second, what the hell did they do to the beautiful looking Red Ranger helmet from the TV series? Over the years, this look has grown on me, from the inset, quite wide mouth area to the rounded, exaggerated bubble visor, and the slightly wonky proportions for the entire shape of the helmet itself. It may not be 100% movie accurate, and they're missing the vents around the back that were present with White Ranger. Still, this does resemble the helmet from the movie, at least in my opinion. If you find the neck is a bit long out of the box, the chest armor is adjustable, so you can raise it up, shorten that neck, and fix the proportions. I was watching someone else's review for one of these movie Ranger figures recently, and they said that This stuff is cheap and nasty and it's going to crack and flake over time because it's pleather. I don't think it will, and I don't think it is. This feels like some kind of rubberized vinyl material. I've experienced many figures that have flaked over time, and this stuff feels surprisingly durable, at least in my opinion. Fingers crossed it does last because the way it looks is outstanding. We've got this shine on the surface. They've stitched in the ribbing in certain places, but they've also sculpted it for some of these armor pieces. The color match between the fabric and the armor plating isn't perfect, but from a distance, in the right lighting, it does look like one cohesive thing. You could remove this chest armor if you wanted to. It's not actually glued in place anywhere. And the belt is attached with Velcro. You will have to remove it to get the holster on it for the power blaster. Back around the front, they've used some of that shiny vinyl material, this time in white, to cover up his neck, and the neck underneath it is thick enough so that he doesn't look like he's got a pencil neck situation going on. The chest armor is contoured around the body, doesn't flare out at all. If you find yours is, grab yourself a hairdryer, put it on a low setting so you don't damage or melt anything, heat up the edges of the chest plate or the back armor, pinch it in as it cools down, and then it should sit in place where you want it to be. The arm/bicep guards are free floating on mine. I don't think that's going to be the case for everyone because I can see some glue residue underneath them. I actually like them free floating because now I can dial in the pose and then adjust them accordingly. Out of the box for the other ranges, they're sitting very low, and that's just not where I want them to be. The power coins for all three of these lads look so much better than Tommy's. They let us down with his one. It was painted in this flat orangey gold and no wash. No wash in the sculpt work to bring out the detail. That's something I complained about in the review for him and the Ninjetti version of himself. They've now subsequently fixed that with red, blue, and black, but that doesn't help anyone out who picked up White Ranger, now does it? The only complaint I have with the power coin is this is accurate to the start of the movie. They all had dinosaur power, so T-Rex for red. Later on, when they got their new power coins from Dulcia, the chest armor symbol did change, so I would have liked to have seen magnetic switch-out power coins, red T-Rex, and also red ape power, so we could represent either Rocky from the start or the end of the movie. The gauntlets and gloves have a lot of leather grain texture on the surface and some stitching sculpted in for the diamonds. There's meant to be some red line work in these chevron sections. That's something that I am going to have to fix myself. The belt is adjustable, you can move it up and down, and the morpher is beautifully well done. There's even some little indentations around the front where the buttons and hinges on the sides of the morpher would help lock into the holder and keep it in place on the belt. There's a defined seam where the pieces would split open, and even though the power coin is tiny, you can still tell that that's the T-Rex one. Coming down to the legs, they're nice and chonky thanks to this exaggerated flared out thigh armor. We have the ribbed sections as part of the fabric that's all stitched in, some more curved line work underneath the belt that's normally hidden, but you can see it if you take the belt off, of course. The thigh plates can be moved left and right, but they are glued in place, just like these ones were. I'm not going to peel these off, though. They'll just stay there permanently. The knee pads are attached to these ribbed bands. They are free floating, so you can move these up and down. Then we get to the split cut boots. They've added some extra plastic over the edge, and it matches the contour of the red part of the shoe portion, so it's not entirely seamless, but it does a decent enough job of blending the two pieces in together. Leather grain texture on the surface, top and bottom, some stitching dotted around the place, plus some fully sculpted tread. Before we move on to Adam, I want to see what this guy looks like wearing the 3-0 Red Ranger helmet and vice versa, this helmet on the MMPR TV show body. Damn it, the 3-0 helmet uses a completely different size neck connector to Toy Battalion's, so it doesn't actually connect up on the body. However, if you wanted to grab the movie helmet and pop it on the 3-0 figure, it's a smaller ball joint, so grab some blue tack, and it's totally doable. I prefer them wearing the helmets that they came with out of the box. If you were curious what this would look like, just like I was, here it is. Next up, Adam. I've always had a soft spot for movie Black Ranger. Something about this really deep color with the gloss over the top. It's such a vibe, and I'm here for it. The helmet is closer to the TV show design than what we saw with Red. Still, it's not exactly the same. There's some exaggerated sharp-looking fins up top, and it's quite skinny around the bottom. They've gone heavy with the clear coat, and it does give it the shine it needs. But the trade-off is the line work looks a touch soft to me. Don't forget, you can adjust the chest armor, so if you find his neck is too long or too short, fiddle around with it. This is what I was talking about with Red. So for movie Black, the chest armor is flaring out around the side. I'm going to have to do the heated up trick, warm this piece, and then flex it in, holding it in place as it cools. That should fix this situation right up for me. I mentioned this with Red, I'll show you what it looks like on Black. You undo the Velcro, slide the holster over the edge of the belt, move it in place, do the belt back up, and now you've got the Power Blaster holster installed, and you can pop the Power Blaster inside of the holster. So the shoulder/bicep armor is fixed in place for Adam. It doesn't move around as much as it does on Red. This is what it looks like if you leave it how it comes out of the box. I am going to peel this away because I want to move it up and close the gap between the rib sections on the sculpted plastic chest piece and the integrated shoulder pads as part of the bicep guards. I'm in awe of the sculpt work on this power coin. Look at the little holes at the bottom of the trunk, the line work all the way up it. You can make out the eyes and the hair strands, as well as this mottled looking metal texture in the background. The gold color choice, spot on, and we've got the wash over the top for both the central chest power coin, as well as the much smaller one on the front of his morpher. The benefit with Adam's outfit being all black is everything matches color-wise. There's no mismatch between the fabric and the armor pieces. It's all just shiny black, and when light bounces off the surface, revealing all of the ribbing and indented line work, this is a feast for the eyes. That's what I love about the MMPR movie Ranger suits. These take what was already established in the TV show as really sick-looking suits, and it ups the ante, giving it that 90s flair that those of us who grew up watching this movie were probably after with 1/6 scale Rangers. Some people really don't like the suits though, so it's entirely up to personal preference. The way this outfit has been designed, including the split cut for the boots, the ribbed floating pieces for the knee pads, exactly the same as what we already saw with White and Red Ranger. For a bit of head swap action, this is the 3-0 TV show helmet on the Toy Battalion body. I'm just using blue tack to hold these in place because the neck connectors, just like with Red, are not compatible between these two pieces. So it turns out the one thing that I think was missing with the design of the movie Black helmet, the silver line work defining the ridges on the Mastodon trunk. Seeing an all-black helmet without that extra detail, it looks boring compared to what 3-0 gave us. Not to say that it's bad, because it isn't. It's just that there's so much more to look at on the front of 3-0's helmet. If you wanted to give the power axe to your movie figure, You could do that. The hands are flexible enough so that they can grip onto the bottom part of this weapon. And finally, it's Billy's turn. I won't bore you by going over like what's sculpted plastic and vinyl and how it's constructed. We've already been through that with the other ranges. Let's focus on the color, the finish, and the helmet. Billy's helmet is one of, if not the, most stylized looking helmets from the movie versus the TV show version. It's super tall. The visor is sitting inside of this lip where the top part of the helmet comes over the top of it. The horns flare in. He's got this ridge up top and a defined point on the underside of the chin, which none of the other ranges have. I mentioned for red that the vent work was missing at the back of the helmet. It is present on blue, and on black, there's surprisingly a different vent on the back of Black Ranger's helmet. Who would have thought that the Rangers have different vents on the back of their helmets? Certainly not me. And I still don't. I reckon what happened is Toy Battalion were looking for reference. It's an old movie, there's not that much reference around. They stumbled across the prop store auctions because they were selling a full set of these suits, and they copied the helmet designs from those auction listings with really high-res pictures. The issue with that is some were hero helmets, others were stun helmets, others were never even used in the movie, they were the visorless, mouthless ones, and there were some replicas in there as well, so who's to say that for red, without the vent at the back, they didn't accidentally copy a stunt helmet or a replica? I would have preferred if they just watched the movie and screen matched their sculpts to what was seen in the film itself. Not a massive deal, it's around the back of the helmet anyway. It's probably not going to be something that influences your purchasing decision on these. If it is, at least now you know. The power coin, the detail is sharp as heck, just like the other ranges, and you can see that glossy finish to it with the washers in that sculpted detail. The Morpher, Triceratops power coin, is present, love that vibrant red on the inside, and the vibrant blue for Billy's entire outfit. The prototype version of the Blue Ranger had this subdued, quite dark look to the blue. They ended up changing it for the final production version, and they changed it for the better. More saturation for Billy's outfit was the way to go. Coming down to the legs, the armor is flaring out on the inside of the thighs. They're meant to sit like that. There's supposed to be a contour down to the knee, so some heat treatment is going to be required to get these to sit in place properly. The knee pads free floating, we've already discussed this. The boots are a split cut boot design. But the question is, what does this guy look like with the 3-0 helmet on? Just okay. It's fine. The helmet is much wider. The blues match, so that's probably the most important thing if you are considering one of these Ranger head swaps. The Toy Battalion helmet on the 3-0 body, it's super tall, so the proportions are dramatically altered when we switch the helmets round. This guy feels bigger and bulkier, whereas the 3-0 one looks extremely lanky. I think they work best wearing the helmets they came with, just like with Red Ranger. Very quickly, before we move on to comparisons, this is a custom David Yost Billy head sculpt that I got off a fellow YouTuber, ZAbu Creations, ages ago now for the 3-0 figures. We never ended up doing the collaboration we had in mind, but this has been sitting in my drawer for the longest time, and while his paint techniques have advanced over the years, if he did this now it would look even better than this does, I'm considering maybe displaying this head sculpt on this piece because it fits perfectly on the body and the likeness is absolutely there. For a quick side-by-side comparison, on the left, Toy Battalion MMPR Movie Red, and on the right, 3-0's TV series MMPR Red. They're the same height, so in your head canon, if you wanted to think of them both as Rocky, you could. But the way I see it, the figure on the left is Rocky and the figure on the right is Jason. Now I have both Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Red Rangers represented in the collection. And they look wildly different from one another, so it's not like I'm picking up the exact same figure twice and having them displayed side by side in the collection. Everything that I just said for red is also applicable to black. Now I've got Adam on the left and Zach on the right. But they are still the same height. The proportions are different. They look slightly more realistic to me on the left. 3 Zeros have always had very long legs. Either way, I am glad I have both. But it doesn't work for Billy because David Yost stayed on as the Blue Ranger from the TV series into the movie, so it's him in both of these outfits. Now it makes even more sense that they're both the exact same height. The helmets, quite different, and the outfits, a big glow up. When they got that movie budget, they went all out with the costumes, and you can tell they spared no expense. They detailed everything to the max. They took the spandex costumes from the Sentai series and armored the shit out of them. Dude, I can't believe these are made by a third-party company. I've seen officially licensed figures that look way worse than these do. Yes, they're not perfect when it comes to articulation, and the helmets might be off here and there, they're missing some paint apps. Overall, as a group, if you're a fan of the movie, I don't think it gets much better than this. I'm now counting down the days until the girls are released, because I need to complete this team for my collection. This is a bucket list grail set for me that I've been waiting for someone to make ever since I saw this movie back when I was a kid. Going over articulation, let's do red first, then we'll move on to the others, just like what we've been doing in the other segments. Starting off with his helmet, there's a ball joint at the base of the neck and another one up underneath the helmet itself. Combined, looking forward to there, looking up to there, more range than I was expecting, honestly. Swivel and heaps of pivot side to side. His chest armor can be moved up, and then you can tuck the shoulder pad underneath it, so his arms will go up to there, going forward and back on soft ratchets. There's a butterfly joint at the shoulder, also on ratchets, that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow going past 90, but it springs back down a little. For the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. His torso crunches forward to there, springing back, going back to there, swivel, and pivot side to side. Watch out for the thigh armor colliding with the hip area, going up to there for the legs, going out to there and holding, swivel at the upper thigh. Ratcheted double bend at the knee, going past 90. Then a split cut boot design and a double ball peg for the ankles. Good for forward and back rotation, plus ankle tilt. Next up, Adam. Starting off with his helmet, and by the way, the articulation is going to be the same for all of the Rangers, but just in case you were wondering, we'll do it anyway. Same setup as red, looking forward to there, looking up to there, swivel and pivot side to side. His arms moving the chest armor up to there, going forward and back on ratchets, butterfly joint at the shoulder, also ratchets that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow with some springing down action. Then for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. His torso crunches forward, going back, swivel and pivot side to side. His legs will go forward to there, going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh. Ratcheted double bend at the knee, going just past 90. Split cut boot design for the ankles, good for forward and back, rotation, and ankle pivot. Last but not least, it's Billy's turn. His helmet, exact same situation, double ball peg, going forward to there, up to there, swivel and pivot side to side. Arms, ratchets up to there, forward and back, butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow, hinge and swivel for the wrist peg. His torso crunches forward, going back, swivel and pivot side to side. His legs will go forward to there, going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh. Ratcheted double bend at the knee, going past 90. Split cut boot, double ball peg for the ankles, forward and back, rotation, ankle tilt. wrapping up on Toy Battalion, Red Ranger, Blue Ranger, and Black Ranger based off their appearance in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. That movie is my childhood, so seeing these figures in 1/6 scale, it's kind of an emotional experience for me. These are special figures, man. They've got issues. I've never seen a bunch of more visually perfect but technically imperfect figures in my life. They're terrible to pose. The material is tough to work with. They don't come with all of their accessories. They don't have switch out power coins. Something about them, they capture the vibe of the movie Rangers perfectly, and the look, just seeing them standing there on the shelf in this size, this scale, it's everything that I could have asked for movie Ranger figures. If a licensed company somehow, someway navigates the minefield of licensing and gives us these, then absolutely I'll pick them up. For right now, you could do a hell of a lot worse than these pieces if you're after these looks in your collection. Just my opinion anyway. I see these as shrunk down movie prop suits. That's how accurate they look to me. And yes, the helmets do have some inaccuracies. I'm sure you've already told me what they are in the comments down below. So at the end of this, am I happy with red, black, and blue? Yeah, I sure as shit am, and now I'm sitting here waiting for pink and yellow. I'm hoping that they aren't too far behind the boys, because seeing the set completed is going to be so enormously satisfying, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on that, even if you don't like the looks of these figures or the looks of the outfits. A full team in their shiny armor is going to be impressive one way or another. Now, I got my figures at a discount from KG Hobby. I've popped a link to their site in the description for your reference purposes only. This was by no means a promotional video. It's been a review. All opinions, as always, are 100% my own. If you're heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.